Hey there, everyone, and welcome into this edition of UP Power. Keegan Cooper and Kevin McNulty back with you, and, well, football season is here, Keegan. We begin with breaking news, though. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are engaged. Your thoughts?
I guess, it's about time, I guess. I think, the Swifties are going to be happy, and Kansas City Chief Nation is just going to get some more Taylor Swift. Where's the wedding, though? Do they have it right there on the...
I don't think they're going to tell us immediately when we find out the news. Where did he propose?
True, where did he propose?
That's probably the better question.
Who was there? How many groomsmen is this guy going to have?
A lot.
A lot.
Jason will be an awesome best man.
Yeah.
I wish he could be my best man, like that guy's ride or die. And he's going to have fun. Remember him with Bill's Mafia a couple years ago, right after he retired? Was that last year? So that's news. She's had a lot of boyfriends. I don't think she's ever had a fiance.
I'm not up on the Swiftie past boyfriends trivia knowledge, but I don't think so.
Well, there's like an album for each of them. We don't have to get into that. But yeah, that's the big NFL news of the day. Besides the 4 o'clock deadline to get the rosters down to 53, which the Lions and Packers are doing right now. But we're not going to start there. We're going to start with high school football, which gets going this Thursday night. Pretty much all the games on Thursday, as they typically are Labor Day weekend. So we are doing a Friday Night Fever on Thursday, and we will be back on Friday. We got 3 8-man games, and then the M&M game in Marinette, Menominee, paying a visit to their rivals from across the river. So that's Friday night. Michigan State also opens their season Friday night. Michigan opens their season on Saturday here on TV6. So we will get into college football as well. But, Keegan, we did our preseason tour. 9 stops, technically. We did hear from Escanaba because they did the Midnight Madness practice the first day of preseason camp, which was pretty cool. And for the sake of transparency, for those preseason stops that we made, we just took the final UP poll from last year, the 10 teams that were on it, 5 in 11-man, 5, not counting Pickford, they're far away. They don't tune in as much. They had an awesome season last year. Enjoyed seeing them play in that state championship game at the Superior Dome, but there were 6 in 8-man that we decided to visit 5 of them. Ishmael didn't work out, but your overall impressions from your 5 visits around the UP to check in. Let's start with 11-man, the 2 teams you visited, Menominee and Kingsford.
Yeah, I think for just a basis thing, things are changing this year. There's a lot of changes going to be going through high school football.
Pretty much everywhere we went, that was a recurring theme. So a returning quarterback, and we'll get to those. There's a couple of them out there, and we'll talk about that in college too. That is a big deal to have a second-year starter, third-year starter at quarterback.
Yeah, and I think starting just with Menominee there, the return of Tanner Turkoff at quarterback, I think that sets him up great for success, having a guy that knows the system, Chad Brandt, and what he's done with that program. They're going to have guys around Tanner and some new guys that are coming in. Menominee looks good. They might be one of the top teams in the UP this year.
I would certainly agree. They won that game against Marinette, their season opener, of course, as it is pretty much every year, pretty handily. And then going through the Westpac, they had a really good season, and when they square off with Kingsford, it's going to be a battle. Kingsford with the new turf, new quarterback Jack Kriegel going from wide receiver to quarterback, but the Flivers look pretty darn strong, coming off an undefeated regular season. Had an awesome year. We were excited to watch them in the playoffs. It's disappointment on top of some injuries in the first round of the playoffs last year, so they want to get that taste out of their mouths for sure.
Yeah, and I think what you'll see about Kingsford this year is not that the offense necessarily changes, but it will, because you look at Navarra from last year as quarterback. He was a guy that could throw the ball.
Bigger kid, didn't move around as much as I would expect Kriegel too.
Kriegel, he's going to get out. He's going to be able to tuck the ball and run it himself, so I think that'll be really interesting for them to see how that kind of offense shifts. They're going to be a fiery team, though, and they're going to play hard and fast, and I think that's exciting when you take a guy like Jack Kriegel with athleticism and speed at the wide receiver position, and now you put the ball in his hands off the snap. That's going to, it'd be an exciting
Gosh, he would
thing.
be a really good 8-man quarterback.
Yeah, with his speed and agility and the new turf. We touch on the new turf. It looks great. I think it'll be great for Kingsford and that community. Talking to Coach Navarro, everybody's going to get to use it, not just football. And I think that's what makes it even bigger. Is classes out there will be able to use the turf. The band, everybody will get to use it. And then of course,
in 3 seasons, pretty much, outside of the dead of winter, a little bit easier to maintain than grass. Of course, it's a new track where they hold the UP track and field finals every year as well. So Kingsford opens up with Escanaba on the road. Escanaba's coming off a 5-4 year where they just narrowly missed out in the playoffs. Of course, they're up in a higher division. They're in D4, I believe, this year. And that's a team that could definitely make some noise. I know they want to improve upon that from last year. Now they don't have Javon Stevenson, who's now playing at Northern Michigan. But that's a team, obviously a bigger school, that Kingsford could have a little trouble with going in there on Thursday night.
Yeah, I think because of all the changes from quarterbacks and coaches and et cetera, you can't take any team lightly. Kingsford, if you want to start off with a win against Escanaba, a team that has just narrowly missed the playoffs, they're hungry to improve that record, you got to go in and take care of business. Now, Escanaba, you're at home week 1, which that's got to be a comfortable feeling for them to be at their own place week 1, when you're kind of working out the kinks probably because you play against each other, but you haven't seen different colored helmets yet, so it's not the same. So not a immediate W for Kingsford. They got to go in there and take care of business. Jack Krugel, new quarterback, kind of new system. That'll be a great game.
And briefly on Menominee, we mentioned Kingsford trying to get rid of a bad taste from last postseason. A little bit different from Menominee. It wasn't an immediate exit in the playoffs, but North Muskegon came in a team, I should say, that they beat the year prior on their way down to Ford Field. That was the state semifinal game where they met in Gaylord. And then you had North Muskegon driving 7 hours up to Menominee. I believe they went through Indiana and Illinois and Wisconsin. They went that route. That's faster, believe it or not. And the Maroons I think they would admit they laid an egg on that day where they got shut out, turned the ball over 3 or 4 times, and it was very uncharacteristic. So I know they don't want to see that happen again, absolutely. Long way to go until we're at the end of October and we start talking about that. Now, let's transition to the teams I visited in 11-man. We'll start with Iron Mountain. Got that preview out yesterday. No one really knew what the future was going to hold for the Mountaineers when Robin Martle had stepped down last year. Obviously, all the success he had over 25 years was just hard for anyone to top, whether you're coaching there or somebody else. He won so many games. In my time in the UP, never lost a regular season game. So that's what you're walking into if you take that job. Now they had somebody who was interested in the head coaching position. Turned out couldn't make it work. Turned down the job. That was already approaching on summertime. So Kyle Johnson, who's taking over the basketball program from his dad, was hoping to just assist with the football program like his dad has, going back to the year 2000, around then. That ended up not being the situation. Kyle Johnson got to step in and be the head coach. It's something he's willing to do, and the one thing he told me is he's been around the program since 2022, working with the JV team. And Iron Mountain was a little bit concerning with the numbers, still are. 28 kids, I believe, was the number total, so they won't have a JV team, but unlike Gwynn, which we'll get to, we'll talk about that, they had enough, mostly juniors. I believe it's 5 or less seniors that they have on this team. So they are very young.
Yeah.
But being out at practice, they have Braden Casson going in as their quarterback, who's a junior. Learned from Ian Martela last year. Obviously, who's a varsity basketball player. The kid is very talented. Listed as 6'2" on last year's roster. He probably a little bigger than 6'2", standing next to him last week at practice. And look, it looked pretty much the same. They are young.
Yeah.
They are very young. I mentioned only a handful of seniors on that team, but it is a team that's just dominated the Iron Division. Like I mentioned, the last 2 years I've been covering football here, they haven't lost a regular season game. Mm-hmm. I think, could that change? Yes, obviously, but the system they have, the buy-in they have up and down the roster, I think despite the uncertainty about what was going to happen with the future, both the coach and the numbers, I wouldn't be concerned because Kyle and Bucky were out there and it looked very similar. Just no Robin Martela, who we miss. We miss a lot. One of my favorite coaches to talk to.
And I think for Iron Mountain too, Kyle had been there with the JV, right? Mm-hmm. And we talk about these guys moving up every year. These juniors are guys that he had on that JV that he worked with.
Right.
So that relationship is already kind of there. He was also around basketball, so the dual athletes or triathletes that you see, Kyle's kind of already built that relationship. It'll be interesting, the dynamic between Kyle and Bucky, but again, they know what they're doing. They'll put in the work. It's going to be great.
And a lot of their athletes obviously are going to play both ways, be a defensive back on defense, play a skill position on offense. The entire offensive line, which I imagine is very similar to the defensive line, they're all new, didn't start last year. But again, looking at it, the system that's in place hasn't really changed. So that's why I don't expect much different from Iron Mountain this year. Now with a young team and Houghton coming in, Houghton with a lot of talent. Tim Driscoll, their head coach, is really on it. We coached the UP All-Stars, was on one of the staffs in June. Iron Mountain shouldn't say, oh, we're going to go undefeated in the regular season. They can't look at it like that because they don't have the experience. But again, it's the system, and I expect more of the same. Though Houghton going in there Thursday night, a lot like Escanaba now. Esky's at home, so that suits them a little bit better. But Houghton can definitely make some noise week one, so we'll see if they can do that. Our game of the week. Has to be our game of the week.
Yep.
Marquette at Negaunee, first time in 8 years. 2017 was the last time they played each other. We're going to preview this game tonight on your TV6 News. Excited to dive into this matchup because there's a lot of talent all over the place on both of those teams. Obviously, Marquette being the biggest school in the UP, have 45 kids. A lot of skill guys that maybe weren't around last year, but they have the returning quarterback, like we mentioned, Ford Richardson. Talking to head coach Eric Mason, I asked, it'd be nice to have a senior quarterback because I told him I've never seen Marquette play with a senior quarterback. And he was like, not only that, this will be Ford Richardson's third year as a starter. He came in as a sophomore about halfway through that season and started starting games. And that's another athlete that you have to pay attention to. I think the one clip I've used more to talk about high school football than any other play from last season was, God, I'm having a tough time describing it, but it was a triple sweep where Ford ended up, it was against Escanaba, and Ford ended up being the receiver, and they picked up about 30 yards. I mean, they can get creative with plays like that. That will make them a really good team again. They were a good team last year, 6-3, and didn't get in the playoffs. It's basically the old BCS system. Who'd you play? What'd you win by? It's not just straight up, you got 6 wins, you get in the playoffs. Although I think if you win 6 games, you should be a playoff team. That's not the point. They might have to win more than 6 games. But I believe they have the chops to do it, especially with the guys they got on the line. Yeah, they lose Talon Smith going to join his brother at Central Michigan on the offensive line there. Obviously a big loss because he was the lineman of the year, just like his brother the year before. But again, they have the favorite for lineman of the year this season in Pavel McCutcheon, who will be a Grand Valley State Laker next year.
Yep. So they're good. I think they lose receiver. Do they lose their receiving core? Yeah.
Well, Kyler Sager,
Kyler Sager,
mostly,
Jacob
and Drew
McPhee.
Bradley was the running back was the biggest question for them
Yeah.
offensively when I was there. So they're going to throw the ball on. I don't mind a little air raid from Marquette.
Yeah.
I wouldn't hate that, seeing Richardson sling it. Now that we're talking about the Nagani game, that's not the case for the Miners. I don't think they're going to be slinging it because that's not their style. And Jeff Nemi, who worked with Paul Jacobson with the football program for so many years, is now the head coach. Same deal. Like I described with Iron Mountain, it was just a little more structured and fluid going from Paul Jacobson to Jeff Nemi. I think that was Jake's plan for a long time to hand it off to Jeff, and that has been rather seamless. And it's going to be the same style of football.
Yep.
Now, they had a 3-year starter going last year, Ty Jacobson, who was playing quarterback when they went downstate in 2022 with that extremely talented team. They obviously ran the ball a lot in those days. Nico Lukarainen, who's going to get a lot of carries at Northern this year, was running the ball. So they threw the ball a little bit more last year because they had very good receivers. Brady Mager and Baron Heslip were catching passes. So they lose a lot there. Kyle Waterman, kid we've covered on the basketball court a lot because he was a varsity basketball player as a freshman, obviously the last 2 years. He is a junior now. Jeff Nemi tells me he's been working with the receivers just on his own a lot over the summer, puts in a lot of work, and is obviously a very talented athlete if we're describing him playing freshman or varsity basketball as a freshman. So we'll see. Nagani, their personnel will look a lot different too, but it's still going to be Nagani football, and that's an interesting matchup if we're talking about Marquette having questions at running back. So they're going to be throwing the ball a lot versus, a Nagani defense that is tough up the middle always, and a Nagani offense that will want to run the ball and will probably run the ball. If your junior quarterback has never started a game, they're going to try and run the ball quite a bit. So I'm interested to see how that goes. Miners Stadium is going to be packed. On Thursday night.
It will be filled to the brim.
Just a really exciting way to begin the season. Obviously, that's a rivalry that dates back 100 years pretty much, but they lost the game 8 years ago and now have gotten it back, which is really cool. And they're playing for the Diamond Jubilee Trophy, which they should be. It's Victor's Cup when they meet in basketball. Diamond Jubilee, they're playing for this Thursday night. Could not be more excited. I'll be live out there Thursday at 5 and 6. So look forward to that. We'll probably talk to at least one of the coaches, get you set for that game, and of course the highlights coming on Friday Night Fever. So those were the 3 11-man teams I visited: Marquette, Nagani, Iron Mountain. We have talked about Gwynn making the difficult decision last week to not or cancel their varsity season. And I described the numbers for Iron Mountain: 28 kids, not going to have a JV team. It's just not enough to split up, especially if somebody's getting injured. The situation for Gwynn was 27 kids, and only 6 of them, around there, single digits, were upperclassmen. So then you have to make the decision, all right, we're going to have one team. Is it going to be JV or varsity? And I believe they made the correct decision in the interest of safety for these 14, 15-year-olds. I'm talking freshmen, sophomores, playing against 17 and 18-year-olds. That's a big difference.
Yeah, it is.
And it is a safety risk for the younger kids, smaller kids, to be out there week in and week out against older, bigger kids. So that's the decision they made. Feel terrible for Gwynn's 2 seniors who won't be able to play their senior varsity season this year. But again, in the interest of safety, it's a bummer that they were forced to make this call right before the season. There's pretty much no other way to know that they would have to do this, nor is it an option to go play 8-man because you wouldn't be able to schedule games. Ishpeming had made the decision the spring before, obviously last season, their first year in 8-man, that they were going to 8-player, and still had a really tough time scheduling games.
Yeah,
Had to
they
play a
were
lot of
playing
Wisconsin teams, and maybe had one home game in the regular season.
Yeah,
So there's just no way Gwyn could do that.
yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I think they made the right call, as disappointing as it is for those kids.
Yeah, it really is, and I hope that it's not a trend that we see, because Ishpeming switched. Gwyn isn't having a season now.
It is. I think
it's difficult.
it's tough for a community to grapple with. Say you grew up in your town and went to high school there 30 years ago. The numbers were just different. Maybe the answer is co-oping a little bit more, if you want to try and avoid going down to 8-man, because it is different football. Not that it's any less exciting, but it's different, and a lot of people just don't like it the same way.
Yeah.
Which I get, but I don't get at the same time. So, yeah, it's going to continue to happen, and programs are going to have to decide. Obviously, schools. It was a whole school district administration decision. Everyone involved with making sure they were doing the right thing. And I think they did the right thing. So, the other thing, their AD, Luke Giardi, said in a statement, a video he put out on Facebook, is that the numbers are stronger as you go down from the sophomores. Obviously, freshmen, sophomores, plenty of kids to have a team. But the numbers all the way down to 5th grade, he said, are strong.
Yeah.
So you think about going forward, Gwyn should be all right. It's just a bummer for this season, certainly. Let's move to 8-man and the teams we saw. I will begin with the defending state champ, Forest Park Trojans, who, look, you thought they were bringing back one of the best athletes in the UP at the moment to play football, and I mean that's across all sports. Being Vic Giuliani, the brother of Kevin Giuliani, who's their tight end, big kid, so good on the basketball court too, now playing football at Tech, who we might see on the field this year for the Huskies. Vic Giuliani gets injured in the offseason and will miss the football season. He was their quarterback last year as a sophomore, was set to be their quarterback again this year. That will not be the case, so that will be a curve for the Trojans for sure as they try and go and repeat. But they have a plan, and they have a lot of other talent outside of Vic Giuliani. Dax Hookey was a guy who ran for more than 20 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
And their one loss in the regular season last year was to North Central. He wasn't great in that game in the regular season. Well, when they met in the playoffs, I think he had 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So that's a guy who they know they can trust, and their head coach, Brian Fabry, tells me, yeah, we also understand that our opponents know that's who they have to key in on. The hard part for their opponents is, are they going to be able to do that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think so. He's going to get his and have a similarly productive season to last year. That's how I view it.
Yeah, and I mean, you think, too, he might even get more touches because Vic Giuliani is out, and he's not going to,
They're going to run the ball a lot.
Yeah.
And maybe throw to him as well. And there's definitely names that I'm not mentioning or forgetting at the moment, but Forest Park definitely will be a favorite in 8-man football this year, right there with North Central. So Forest Park opens up with Newberry at home, so it'll be a big celebration. We hope to be out there on Thursday night for them to welcome back the Trojans for the first time since they won that state title last November at the Superior Dome. Newberry, a team, they were 2-7 last year. I think they're more talented than that, and we'll give them a little bit of a fight Thursday night. Now, North Central at Munising Thursday. Very excited for the Mustangs. They're dedicating the field, Terry Sand, on Thursday night. Those are 2 teams you visited. What are you expecting from the Jets and the Mustangs Thursday?
Yeah, I think we'll start with North Central, a team that has won 5 state titles in the last 10 years.
Yep.
So they have 50.
But since 2022, they have not.
They have not.
So a big, long 2-year drought
Yeah.
for Leo Gorzinski and his team,
It's
who doesn't have anyone named Gorzinski on the roster this year. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe so. No Gorzinski except Leo.
Who is not playing.
He'll
He'll be coaching.
He'll be coaching. The hunger for that program is there, and I think it's, talking with Leo, all these guys that are now on the team that have seen it happen over the last 5 years, it's their time now. They have to go out and get it. I think for every 8-man team, because Vic Giuliani is out for Forest Park, and you can't not acknowledge that and look at it,
Right.
because they were the best team in 8-man last year, it kind of opens that door that, like, okay, North Central, we're not going to have Forest Park in the playoffs. We're going to have, we may not, it all depends. They, that hard, gritty 8-man, we're going to run the ball, we're going to be bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
That's kind of their motto attitude this year. And, they're hungry to get back there, right? When you're a program that dominates at the level that they have.
And I mean, if they beat Forest Park in that playoff game last year, would you be shocked if they're raising up that trophy at the end of the year?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. So.
And Lane Gorzinski was their guy last year, now ironically playing with Kevin Giuliani at Tech this year. So that's a void they'll have to fill.
Yeah.
For sure. How about Munising?
It's going to be interesting.
They had to say goodbye to a terrific senior class.
Yeah.
Who obviously played multiple sports.
And I mean, you think about, Carson Keenitz and Jack Dussault and Trevor
NMU
Nolan.
guy now, and Trevor Nolan, I believe, hadn't played football before last year, but such a good athlete. You trot him out there, he's going to help you.
Yeah, and so it's going to be a new thing. New guys stepping up into roles. The team's going to look different. It's probably going to function a little bit differently. But the core value of what Munising Mustang football is, I don't think changes. What they do, how they play, the intensity that they have. But it'll be interesting, right? Because you think of the level of athletes that they did have.
Right.
And it's not that you're trying to replace them, because, sometimes you can't, right? Jack Dussault, phenomenal athlete. Carson Keenitz, phenomenal athlete. Trevor Nolan was electric. But you don't have that. What do you have? And you have to find what you do have and utilize it in the best way that you can. That game's going to be really interesting because
Mustangs at home, people are going to be fired up, but they're going to look a lot different. For sure. The other thing, back to our numbers conversation, is I think we heard at multiple places that, we had upperclassmen come out and play football for the first time.
Yeah.
I heard that at Forest Park. You heard that at Norway.
Yeah.
And we should touch on Norway, who also went through a coaching change. Andy Medina, who's been around the program. Like I said, when we found out that he was the new coach, I'm like, I know that name. I know he's been around Norway. And then you went and interview him, and man, that's a guy I want to follow out of the tunnel.
Yeah, I mean, he is ready to go, organized, fired up. He's been around the program, was an athletic trainer, then a JV coach, then an assistant coach, and is now the guy. And even talking with the players there, they know him. And so that relationship has already been built over this core years. And
bit of a recurring theme in Iron Mountain and Negaunee. We got coaching changes, but, they were here.
Yeah.
So they know what's up.
Yeah, and I, talking with Coach Medina, Norway has been on the cusp in football season for the last couple of years of doing something really special, right? I believe that.
They have
7-3 last year, 6-4.
And if they didn't run into Caden Luma, might
have been
similar
a different story.
to North Central. Who knows how far they would have gone.
They get an influx of some guys that are playing football for the first time coming out, some core returners, some new young guys. So that's going to be kind of a new team of how they meld and do things and kind of how they work together. But that's going to be an exciting team, an electric team to watch this season.
I would agree. So just going through Thursday's slate, that's the teams we visited with in the preseason, as I mentioned off the top. We have Gladstone now playing instead of Gwynn. They were able to get a game, which is good for week 1.
That's awesome.
I would imagine Durand, who they're playing at Cadillac, a lower Michigan team, so I believe they're meeting almost in the middle. There to play that game. I imagine they had a similar situation where the team they were going to play canceled or whatever, ended up being a forfeit. So Gladstone will go down to Cadillac to play Durand on Friday. And then Lance takes on Hancock. So we'll see what the outcome is there. I think Hancock should have a leg up there. We will see if any of that changes. Bark River at Westwood is an interesting game.
It's going to be interesting, yeah.
Two teams that were kind of middle of the road in the Westpac last year certainly want to see an improvement, and I think that's a pretty evenly matched game. We might be out there on Thursday. Manistee gets a visit from East Jordan, so downstate team coming in to begin the season. Then Calumet visits West Aaron County. I think Calumet is certainly a team to look out for. I think you and I both really like their head coach, Josh Fronte, and I think they could get back to the playoffs again.
Yeah, I think almost a sleeper team, if you will, that you know, maybe was just out of the top 5 best in the UP, and you know, they've really continued to build that program up over there under Franti.
Absolutely. Lake Linden visits North Dickinson in 8-man, and then Ironwood will host Hurley. So I believe that's the only Wisconsin versus Michigan game this weekend besides Menominee Marinette. Oh, and then Mid-Penn hosts Goodman Pembine. And that might be the first ever 6-man game in Michigan high school football. So those are the Wisconsin teams coming in, Hurley, Marinette, and then Goodman Pembine. Norway will host Stevenson. Superior Central visits Pickford. We'll see what Pickford's got coming off of what was an outstanding season last year. And Engadine visits Rapid River. Friday, Sault Ste. Marie at Sheboygan. Sault Ste. Marie was definitely down last year.
Yeah.
Lost to Esky, lost handily to Marquette. We'll see what they got. Obviously, they're on the same conference, those 3 schools. And then in 8-man on Friday, which we will get to most of these games, Gogebic visits Carney-Nadeau, Ontonagon at Ishpeming. How about that for Ishpeming? A home game against the UP team to start the season. That will be nice for the Hematites. Didn't have that pretty much until the playoffs last year. So it's your high school football week 1 look ahead. Cannot wait.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I think it's, you know, because of all the changes and anything, you know, any year of high school football, it's anybody's year, but I think even more this year, any team, the ones that we previewed, the ones that we didn't have a chance to get to, could rise up and be the top in the UP. There's no clear, concise favorite, in my opinion,
I don't think so.
There's been too many changes, you know. People graduate, new coaches, new systems.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be a different look. It's going to be exciting, though.
There's a lot of it, like we mentioned. Well, Thursday's completely loaded. Obviously, most of the high school games are on Thursday. Both colleges here in the UP that sponsor football, Lake State obviously doesn't, Michigan Tech and Northern are at home Thursday to open their seasons. Let's start with the Huskies, because I think you and I are on the same page here, where a couple bounces go their way last season, and they're a 9-2 team.
Yep.
And in the playoffs.
Yep.
They were 7-4 last year, so that's a 2-win improvement from year 1 to year 2 under Dan Metlack, who you and I both agree is an exceptional coach.
He is,
and certainly helps to inherit a program that has been steady for many years in the GLIAC. And they weren't picked that high, I believe 5th in the GLIAC.
Yeah. So I think it's.
And I don't agree with that.
I don't either. I think it's. I think they got done dirty is not the way to say it, but I think they were undervalued at how good that team is.
Yeah, I understand Darius Willis who set records at Tech, isn't around anymore. They don't have Alex Freeze, who was a terrific D2 quarterback. When you think about what he was able to do to captain the ship on offense the last 2 seasons, throwing a lot to his guys, high school teammate Ethan Champney, who is still around, and will now have to build up a rapport with Alex Bueno, their new starting quarterback, who's a Rochester Hills guy, I believe.
Yeah.
So played high-level high school football, absolutely.
Yeah.
Down there in Metro Detroit. And a guy you talked to yesterday who you mentioned was very well-spoken and talked about goals and the system that he's in, and strikes me as a pretty confident and comfortable guy going to lead the offense this coming Thursday.
No, yeah, he was confident, and I think it was because of the system that he's been surrounded by. Learning under Alex Freeze, but also Dan Metlack, who played at Tech and has been around the system
and is a quarterback.
Yeah, and so that's got to be a comfortable feeling for him. And I think the other thing too is his first time starting is at home, at a place that he's been practicing on and working on, and is comfortable with that thing. Or is comfortable with Curley Stadium and that environment. So he's also, when we look at what Alex Freeze was able to do, I think Bueno is more agile and is going to be able to get out of the pocket and maybe create more things.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more movement than Freeze did. Not that Freeze didn't, but I think Bueno, just the speed and kind of his agility is going to bode well for the Huskies.
And I don't think they ever got overly creative with the playbook past couple of years under Metlack with Freeze as the quarterback. Maybe we'll see a little bit more of that. Now for Thursday, Bemidji coming in, that was a really great game last year to open the season. They go to overtime. Bemidji obviously on their home field. They had a great student section. Do you remember that?
Wild.
They were rocking.
The Beavers were rocking.
Yeah, totally. Everyone was out there that night, and it looked pitch dark. You ever seen their football stadium?
Mm-mm.
It's
So.
right on a lake.
Oh, so it's dark at night.
There are 10,000 of them in Minnesota. If you haven't heard that, it'd be pretty sweet if Tech had the same thing, because they could. The lake's not too far away. But anyway, it looked like a really cool environment. Huskies end up losing that game on a walk-off touchdown. It was a 6-point loss. And Bemidji's just as good. They've been a playoff team, top of the conference. This is what Metlack was saying yesterday. They know that for the past pretty much 4 years, and going back decades, really, Bemidji football it has been strong. So I'm glad these teams play each other. Obviously, they play each other in hockey because they're in the same conference. It's a really good way to start the regular season. Bemidji, again, ranked in the top 25 in both D2 polls. So it's a very good team coming in, but it's also a team Tech thinks they can beat, and rightfully so.
Yeah, and it's, talking with, Coach Metlack, they don't get caught up in what your rank is or where you landed on the poll, right? They're concentrating on what they have to do this season.
It's a good way to acknowledge, this is a really good team we're playing.
Yeah, no tune-up week one for Michigan Tech, right? You're playing one of the best teams in the country, a top 25 team. You got to be on your A game. You got to bring the stuff that, you got to bring your A game. You're at home, comfortable feeling. Coach Metlack said, the guys will have a normal school day, if that makes sense, and then leading up to game time. So I think that's another plus for them. And anytime you're at home in the football season, you're going to be more comfortable. Keys for them is not beating themselves, right? I think when you think about the games that they lost last year, their 4 losses, there were moments where, there was a turnover here or a missed assignment here, or I don't think there were many interceptions last year. I can't remember every single play, but they can't beat themselves, if that makes sense.
I would certainly agree, and obviously having a first-year starter in there, you just want things to be steady and obviously limit those turnovers. And then the non-conference schedule is the same as last year, pretty much. South Dakota Mines in week 2. That was a 4 overtime game. One of the best college football games I've ever seen. It was just like, it was the, Mountain West game that you turn on at 11 o'clock after you get home on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
That's what that South Dakota Mines game was at Tech last year. Jerry was up shooting that game on the sidelines for us. They were down, I think, 3 touchdowns in the third quarter, and I'm like, yeah, come on back to the station. We'll get those highlights up. And then Tech comes back and win it, so I end up having to take the highlights from the stream. But that was a crazy, crazy game. Will definitely be a tough one for Tech again this year in week 2 before they play Hillsdale, who they've beaten in each of the last 2 seasons, and then back home for Upper Iowa on Saturday, September 20th to wrap up non-conference. Let's turn our attention to the team in Marquette. You're the guy with all the info this week. You've talked to both head coaches.
Yeah, there's
going forward. I'll be over at Northern every Tuesday talking to Shane Richardson. But what was the word today as they prepare to welcome Minnesota State Moorhead on Thursday night?
Well, I guess the elephant in the room is, and it's not an elephant anymore. Everyone knows they haven't won a game in 2 years.
That's when I called it on air a couple weeks ago.
And that's,
And human nature, right? They could say or even try to believe it that they don't think about that.
But you do.
It's not possible.
It's been 1,067 days since they've won at home. It's been 1,018 days since they've won their last game. Their last win, November 12th, 2022 against Lake Erie College on the road.
Yeah.
So you can't not think about it, and you're also.
But at the same time, you have to try to a certain extent to put it out of mind because it can only hurt you if you're getting in your head like, oh, if we don't win this game, something really bad is going to happen. Yeah. No, that's par for the course. If you lose this game, what would be really great is having the confidence enough to go out there and win a game. As for Thursday. It'll be tough. It's not. Yeah, you're a team that was above 500 last year.
Beat a couple top 25 teams. Yeah. Shane Richardson did say today, and I really like this, that the shift that has happened over the last 3 seasons of guys are not timid or worrying about.
It is true. That part has certainly changed.
They are ready to go, and they're in attack mode because there's no reason not to be now.
And when he walked in there in 23, he knew he didn't have the roster to really compete in the GLIAC. Now, would you expect them to not win a game? Probably not. And that's what the last 2.5, 3 years have been for them, is getting the culture right, getting the right guys in. I mean, they have 70 guys combined from the last 2 recruiting classes, or somewhere near there. Obviously, the roster's around 100, so that's so many guys that he brought in that he believes in from Wisconsin, Lower Michigan, UP, Illinois. These are guys that he believes in and thinks can take them to a better place. The challenge is putting it on the field and making it work. And we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. There's been glimpses.
I mean, we don't have reason to believe that it's going to happen. They're going to have a strong competitive season. It hasn't happened yet, but, if not now in 2025, when, right?
Yeah, and I think the other big is, and they don't have a starting quarterback yet. They haven't named one. So we don't know who we're going to see on Thursday.
Some teams do this at the Division I level, and we'll get to some Big Ten talk as we get ready for a big college football slate this weekend. Labor Day weekend, it's kind of not exclusive to Saturday, no NFL yet either. Some teams will try to do that. Mike Loxley, who I covered for 3 years at Maryland, never named his starter before the season. Even when everyone knew it was going to be Talia Tungavailoa, he didn't say so. They have a freshman quarterback who's probably going to start on Saturday. I just listened to his press conference. He didn't say he's our starter. And Michigan, and you have all these teams that have come out and named their starting quarterback. Michigan, their freshman, Bryce Underwood, just turned 18 years old. They said that he is our starter. And so coaches try to do that, but I think the vibe we've gotten from Shane Richardson, and it's important to note they're running the option offense again
Yeah.
for the second straight year. And they have experience running it, guys on the line, guys in the backfield, wideouts and tight ends that need to block on those plays. They've done it now and practiced it for 4 semesters is how Shane described it to me. So that should look better than last year, but the answer you got about the quarterback was they have 3 different options.
Yeah. So, Austin Riddle, which I believe is a junior. Duke Cheval.
Yeah, went from Marquette High School to Tech, transferred to Northern, played quite a bit last year.
Yeah. Duke Cheval, redshirt freshman. And Trevor Turkoff.
Played last year.
Yep, played last year. Trevor Turkoff, redshirt freshman, who also played but not at quarterback.
No, he didn't get his, I think it's 3 games.
Or 3 games,
So yeah, that's why he was able to redshirt. He was out there a little bit. A guy, obviously, we covered closely when Menominee was playing for a state championship. He was their quarterback.
Yeah.
Actually running, it's not an option offense. I don't know how Chad Brandt would describe Menominee's offense, but it's not typical, especially for college football. So the fact that Trevor, and that's a guy that Shane Richardson is high on.
Yeah.
When I was out of practice at the beginning of camp, he did make a point to tell me, like, Trevor Turkoff is a guy we really like. Now, he's not that big. I think listed 5'11", 170. That's your boy here.
Yeah.
and like going out there to play college football. I don't know. That's tough. He's a little bit small, but the athleticism, we both agree, is really there.
He's probably bigger, maybe a little bit bigger.
I
now,
think so
getting in the weight
too.
room.
Yeah.
Maybe like 180, 190.
I don't think that was very generous to Trevor. I'm just saying when you look at that, you're like, that's not a very big dude. Might cause him some trouble.
Yeah.
But
and I think it'll be interesting because the way that Shane Richardson was talking about it today is pending different scenarios, right? Those guys are capable of each doing different things.
I do certainly believe him that he's going to use all 3 of the guys.
Yeah, I think all 3 will see time on
It's
Thursday.
just the old adage, if you got 3 quarterbacks, then you don't have 1, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit of the case.
Yeah, and I think
I would just be hopeful that they find an answer.
Yeah, because
Not in November.
Yeah. After we
find it earlier to get some consistency in the option. And yeah, that's the thing. Everything they put on tape last year kind of shows how you stop it, right?
Yeah.
So they will have to make tweaks
and
to the offense.
Yeah.
And I don't know, Shane was talking about just the defense as a whole, I think is a little more talented and also has been together a little bit.
Yeah. And I think
so. You got to get
is,
stops on defense to have a chance and let this option offense do its thing.
Yeah.
Now, are they going to do that? We don't know. So it'll be a tough one on Thursday night. Well, maybe they come out and impress us and end up losing by a touchdown. I think that's a win. Because
that's probably a win.
As you go through the schedule, there are games where they definitely will have a shot. One of them is, I think, Northwood.
Yeah.
They have to go on the road week 2. And then St. Thomas coming in week 3 will be really tough.
Yeah.
It'll be really tough. They have Davenport on the schedule twice. One of them is technically a GLIAC game. One of them is just a scheduled game, but obviously counts for their record. So there's that. And then going through the GLIAC schedule, obviously Roosevelt, they went to overtime with them last year. Now they have to go on the road and play Roosevelt this year. That it is certainly tough, but when you look at the GLIAC teams, that's one that you think they can beat.
Yep.
Maybe throw Wayne State in there because you get them at home. But that's the last game of the season. You don't want to be 0-10 going into the Wayne State game and thinking we have to win this.
Yeah.
Or else, who knows? So we'll see about Northern. That's what we got at the moment. We'll find out just how they look Thursday night. It's not end-all, be-all if they get blown out that, they're going to go winless again. But we'll just see how they look. Use the eye test a little bit, right?
Fair enough. You never know until you know.
That's true. That's why I'm so excited that football season is here. Let's touch on training camp. We got 10 minutes to go. We'll talk a little Tigers and Brewers, what's gone on the last week and how the playoff race is shaping up. Packers training camp, I was there on Thursday. It was fight night with the Seattle Seahawks, their one joint practice at home. That didn't really happen when they were in Indianapolis with the Colts for a joint practice. But, yeah, Zach Tom throwing haymakers, Anthony Belton throwing haymakers, so offensive linemen mostly we're getting into it. And you see it in these joint practices a lot because they're competitive.
Yep.
And honestly, that's how it should be. You just hope no one gets hurt. No one got hurt. But when you're on the practice field, and I mean it happens in intra-squad a lot, things get heated, and it's football. You're trying to play full speed, you know.
Yeah.
You're going to get a little ticked off. The funny part is, me being there as a member of the media with everyone else. Well, we couldn't shoot that period of practice, so we're all talking about, punches were flying and everything. No one had video of it, which is the funny part. I mean, that's just how the NFL structures the practices. I mean, I'm appreciative that we're able to even get out there and get some practice video to begin with. So that is what it is. And then Packers end up winning the preseason game. The third preseason game is absolutely like, what kind of stock can you put in? I think the second one is mostly the one that you look at. But let's talk about the Packers and their health, I think.
It's not good.
Jordan Love didn't look good on Thursday, but he took 12 reps in 7-on-7. They were in the red zone. He was 3 for 12. I think 5 of them were broken up by Seattle. So that didn't look good, but can you say that, when he goes out there week 1 against Detroit, that
Detroit's going to be after him.
He's only going to complete 25% of his passes, and
With Detroit defense, yeah, I would say that. I don't know.
No, I think there will be some rust for him to shake out week 1, absolutely, and I would give the Lions the advantage in that game, just because there are question marks for the Packers' health on offense.
Yeah,
is what I'll say, and Matthew Golden is pretty much the only receiver who's been healthy in camp, and he's looked really good. Draft him in your fantasy leagues, by the way, especially you Packers fans. You will love that because he's gotten the most reps during training camp, which is now over, of course, as of Thursday. Their regular game prep now getting ready for Detroit. So Romeo Doubs, I can't count on that guy, right?
Fair, yeah.
That's the way I see it, and then you're waiting until October, November until you get Christian Watson back. So that's why I'm saying Matthew Golden will be a prime target for Jordan Love, especially early in the season. And their tight ends looked really good. Yeah. Both Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave looked really good on Thursday, and I would expect them to get a lot of targets, both of them, and probably run a lot of 12 personnel early in the season as they try and get acclimated to Jordan Love missing the back half of camp. And then Xavier McKinney with the calf injury, he missed a lot of training camp, I believe.
Yeah.
2 full weeks. He wasn't out there, but he did return for the Seahawks practice. Calf injuries scare me. They just do.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't feel great about that, although there was the potential that he would miss all of the rest of camp, but he did make it back for the final practice, so I would feel all right about him going into week 1. And, they have talent on that defense, and I think by and large that defense looked very strong for a lot of last year under Jeff Hafley. No big issues there. I just want to put a reminder out there. It's going to be tough if you don't win your division games to win 10 games and get into the playoffs for both the Lions and the Packers this season. Because instead of playing and I mentioned this last week, and I think it's extremely important to remind people, you're not playing the AFC South, you're playing the AFC North.
And those teams are all good.
And you're not playing the NFC West, which had one playoff team last year. You're playing the NFC East,
which has all good teams on it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The Cowboys you expect to be better than last year. The Giants will be better than last year, and the Commanders and the Eagles.
Yeah.
So there you go. Just a reminder, division games will be uber important in terms of getting into the playoffs, just because you won't have 4 wins from the AFC South like both the Lions and Packers had last year.
Yeah.
Lions release Hendon Hooker. I believe Dan Campbell said it might have been time for a change of scenery for him. He was with the Lions for 3 years since they drafted him out of Tennessee. I would agree. And they were comfortable making that decision because, well, Kyle Allen looked pretty good in the preseason.
He did look pretty good, and it's I think you compare Hendon Hooker in the preseason to Kyle Allen, and there really isn't a comparison. Allen just looked better. He looked more solid, and
Just the obvious answer, right?
Yeah.
And they've been rather healthy.
Yep.
Ennis Rakestraw, their second-round pick from 24, is going to miss all of the 2025 season. He has struggled to stay on the field in 1+ years. With Detroit,
I think
obviously so important that you keep Aiden Hutchinson healthy because he was on track to be the Defensive Player of the Year last year before that horrific injury in Dallas. And everyone on the defense, that goes without saying after what they went through last year, which obviously really hurt them down the stretch of the season and in the playoff game against Washington. So I think the Lions have too much talent to regress like people are saying.
Yeah, I mean, Jared Goff, a quarterback.
It's such an August conversation to be like, they lost both their coordinators. Their offensive line, obviously, without Ragnow, that is tough.
That is.
And it will be a curve adjusting to life without Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. Those things are true, but they have too much talent to go back to the Lions of old.
Yeah, and I mean,
And you forget how good of a coach Dan Campbell is.
Yeah.
And I said this last week as well. He has a chip on his shoulder because everyone thought his coordinators were lifting him up. He was a coordinator merchant.
Yeah,
right?
so it is a test this
So
year for him.
it's time for him to show a little bit what he's got. And he's a smart offensive mind. You forget he played tight end in the NFL for almost 10 years. He knows what he's doing, and he's still going to be Dan Campbell in that aspect. And I think their offense will be really, really darn good again. There's no reason for me not to believe that. Will they score 560 points, whatever they scored in the regular season last year? No. Like, they're not going to score 60 against the Titans. Again, they're playing the AFC North and the NFC East. So those are 8 games right there that are just not equal to the same 8 games that are on your schedule that were there last year. So,
Yep. So here's your injury stats. The Packers have 17 people listed as questionable right now, 2 on the IR, and the Lions have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 listed as questionable, 2 on the IR.
So I was right in saying their injury situation is a bit better, and they should feel all right about that.
For the Lions, though, I mean, you have 53-man roster, or for the Packers, excuse me.
Yeah, they've started to trim down. We won't get to who's been cut. There will be a couple surprises. Hendon Hooker was not a surprise. Yeah, we can talk about that next week as we get into the NFL. Briefly, MLB, Brewers had a tough week, dropping 3 out of 5 in Chicago, so the Cubs got back into it a little bit, and then they dropped the series to the Giants over the weekend. But I think their win last night was pretty encouraging. The offense got going a little bit. Brandon Woodruff tried to blow it, but he didn't, and the bullpen did a really good job. Uribe, I think, has been really good. I think they can get back on track. They have a 5.5 game lead on the Cubs. And then the Tigers are back in business.
Yeah.
I think that the challenge for them, and Scooble got Grand Slam. Shea Langoliers has like 20 home runs since the All-Star break. If you didn't know his name before, you do now because he took Scooble deep for a salami in Sacramento last night. That was unexpected.
That's tough.
But Tigers, the challenge for them is to not get complacent and ramp up into the postseason. I think they're a favorite in the American League. They should be.
Yep, I agree.
They have Tarek Skubal and Riley Green.
He's
one of my favorite players.
Yep.
In baseball now, has 30 home runs on the year. So they just, they've been in first place for so long. I think you see that every once in a while. but they get to avoid the wild card series, I would expect, unless things completely go off the rails. So that'll do it for this edition of the pod. Tune in Friday Night Fever on a Thursday, and then regular old Friday Night Fever again on Friday. We'll talk all the high school football, all the college football again, like we did here for an hour, just about. Thanks for being here, and we will be back here on UP Power next week.